title of this talk is called Raw Foods 101, 202, and 303.
Yeah, this is Jamie.
And it's a little bit more than that because I want to talk about some things that not everybody talks about in raw foods. Oftentimes you hear kind of the same lectures and good lectures and some new empowering information, but I want to talk about some things that are completely off topic but completely on topic to raw foods, and I think you'll find it interesting. And I'm not going to tell you the result of this until the end, but those of you who have smoked marijuana, have considered smoking marijuana, or used to smoke marijuana will be interested in what I have to say about marijuana at the end, and it might surprise you. I'm not going to say whether that's good or bad, but you just have to see. And there's a lot, I've been doing raw foods for about 23 years now, and there's a lot of successes and also a lot of mistakes that you make along the way. Back in the early days, raw foods was very different. It was very regimented. Natural hygiene was big, and it's still a movement, but it's a little different than that today. And as with any movement, as with any game, any sport, anything you want to do in life, you often learn and then you make mistakes and you go on to improve on those. And a mistake that I believe people make chronically in raw foods that leads to them not having the same success that I think they could have in raw foods, and also leads to a lot of people leaving raw foods, is that they don't have the right foundation. And somebody told me once that there was some wise ancient Asian saying that there's no such thing as a bad student, only a bad teacher. And I think there is some grains of truth to that. And I pay homage to the very early raw foods teachers, which were doing things that no one else had done. But I think it's also important that we don't ever try to memorialize something or have a recreation of what somebody did in the past because we want to grow and evolve. To give you an example, early in my raw foods career, I was a fruitarian. Fruitarianism worked well for a while for me, but ultimately it started to work abysmal for me. But I moved and grew from there. There's other people, including David Wolfe, that have gone through fruitarian phases, but then understood that there's a better balance than that. And I want to give you what I believe this following list, and this list is based on the International Living Food Summit, which met 3 times over the past several years with a good majority of the raw food leaders there. We were trying to unify and get some commonalities of the raw foods movement, things that were at the foundation. And I believe if you use these things, which I'm going to just extrapolate from, as a foundation, you'll ultimately be successful on a raw food regime. And the first one, the single most important thing you can do on a raw food regime, you would think to yourself, well, the most important thing I can possibly do is eat my food raw. And I would say, no, that is not the single most important thing you're going to do. You can do, even though you're eating most of your food raw. Now that seems like a contradiction, but let me go through this list and I'm going to wrap around to why I think that's so critical with a lot of stories to illustrate how important this is. The first benefit of going raw is all of a sudden you are a vegan.
Oh yeah.
That's the first main benefit of going on a raw food diet. Just by going on a healthy vegan diet alone, you can completely reverse heart disease. People on all cooked vegan diets, all cooked whole food vegan diets, not junk food, we'll get to that in a minute, have reversed heart disease. Some people have even reversed cancer on all cooked food, vegan diets. That would usually be a macrobiotic diet. Now, I'm not advocating a macrobiotic. Don't anyone even think that that's the case. But I'm giving an example. When you're a vegan, you're no longer eating animal products. And I want to give you an example. Let's talk about a meatloaf. A meatloaf is toxic. It is the muscle of a cow, and whether that cow is free range or organic or not, there's metabolic poisons that we all have in our tissues. We have a liver, we have kidneys, we have bowels, we have lungs, we have skin. We have huge amounts of our anatomy dedicated to detoxification because simply by existing, we create toxins. And our bodies are designed to get rid of a natural and realistic amount of them. But when you introduce toxins beyond what the body is designed to handle, the body gets sick. And even if you have the purest source of flesh, be it human flesh, cow flesh, pig flesh, it doesn't matter, there's metabolic poisons in everybody's flesh. So in addition to detoxifying your own poisons, if you're eating the flesh of another creature, you're having to detoxify the metabolic poisons of that creature in addition to your own. And that's one of the most toxic things you can do. So a meatloaf, even if a raw, free-range meatloaf, is going to promote heart disease and cancer, arthritis, osteoporosis, general toxicity, sickness, and early death. Now, let's contrast that to a nut loaf, a raw nut loaf that's really high. I mean really high in nuts and seeds, something that would sit heavy in your stomach. If we compare those two things nutritionally, there is no comparison nutritionally between a meat loaf, which is high in fat, toxic animal protein, and a nut loaf, even a double calorie nut loaf that you use, let's say 50% nuts and seeds. And hopefully any of you have known if you eat lots of nuts and seeds, you can end up feeling heavier than if you ate something healthy cooked. But I'm talking about a heavy nut loaf, raw, is far healthier than any meatloaf from any animal, even if that's raw. Huge difference. But I want to compare now either a nut loaf, or let's compare that meatloaf raw. If your primary criteria, or if your primary understanding, or if what you've been taught or led to believe that the number one foundation of being successful on a raw food diet, the number one principle is raw, then you're going to eat that raw meatloaf instead of steamed cauliflower. Because cooked food is what? Poison, we've all been taught. Certain cooked foods are. But you cannot compare nutritionally and how you'd feel a raw piece of flesh to steamed cauliflower. All animal products are antioxidant negative, meaning they have more oxidants than they have antioxidants. They create free radicals. The iron in animal products is a heme form of iron, which is toxic and actually is a chief cause of fatal poisoning in children under 6, either from supplements or from animal products. It also contributes to heart disease. Whereas the cauliflower, even though it's steamed, it still has phytonutrients in it, it still has vitamins, and it still has minerals. So there's no comparison. One's vegan, one's not. Even brown rice, even almost anything cooked vegan is better for you than that meatloaf. The number one criteria is you should be, for your health, ideally, you should be vegan. It makes the most sense environmentally and also nutritionally. So if you're going to fall off the wagon, so to speak, you're striving to be raw, to be more raw, and you say, you know what, I've eaten something cooked, so let me just eat crap. Let me get a Domino's pizza. Let me eat some Doritos, because all cooked food is poison. It's all in the same category. I've eaten something cooked. I might as well just go for it and eat something really crappy cooked. Absolutely not, and you do yourself a great disservice, and I've seen so many people do themselves, the planet, and the animals a disservice by doing that. Go to something that is vegan. Now we're going to build on that. The next thing that happens, and when we go raw, I think 90+% of the people are automatically vegan. The next thing you benefit of going raw is you eat an organic diet. Most people and companies into raw are also conscious enough to be into organic, things grown without pesticides. Pesticides promote disease and they promote cancer, and it's essential to get away from them, and that's a benefit and one of the foundational tenets of going raw. Now, the first two things we've talked about, the foundation of a successful raw diet, is not raw yet. We're talking vegan and organic. The next is whole foods, because I gave you some examples for as a nut loaf is a little bit high in fat, but it's a whole food. Steamed cauliflower, brown rice, those are whole foods. You cannot possibly put those in the same category as, let's say, a vegan cake made out of white sugar, white flour, and hydrogenated oil. That is crap. That, I would call that poison. That's absolute poisonous crap. Whole foods make such a big difference, and I have never heard of or witnessed myself anybody overcoming any affliction on a junk food vegan diet. Actually, someone once did overcome arthritis because they were having less animal protein, but it's difficult on a hardcore junk food vegan diet to overcome things. However, on a whole food vegan diet, even if it's cooked, your health is immensely, whole food vegan and organic, immensely improved. And we're getting to more of the foundation. Whole food, organic, vegan is the primary. And your food should also be high in nutrition, such as vitamins, antioxidants, and phytonutrients. And if you're going to eat, let's just say, whole wheat flour, well, that's whole, that's vegan, and that's organic all day long. Well, that's moderately high in vitamins and minerals, certainly compared to white flour, but nothing compared to some of the other roots, some of the greens, so some vitamins and fruits and other things that are much higher. So you want to make sure your food choices are of the fruit and vegetable variety because they're going to be much higher in nutrition. You also want to make sure you have a significant quantity of chlorophyll-rich green foods. And in today's raw foods diets, you're already doing this. Another one is you want to have adequate, complete protein from plant sources.